eyes into windows to wildflowers, white and black holes, letting it fall together. I'm letting go for once, forever. Following this map under Father sky is open heart. Golden hair is spun into the lightning whisper to the stars. I turn my eyes into windows to wildflowers, white and black holes. The light meeting in my middle, between two worlds the pattern move. The pattern grows into a map. How many times I take this path, woven with the vine, walking the red road alive. Jackie, I be the Maya. Jackie, I be the Maya. together. I'm letting go for once forever. Following this map under father sky is open heart. Golden hair is spun into the lightning whisper to the stars. I turn my eyes into windows to wildflowers, light and black holes. The light meeting in my middle, between two worlds. The pattern move, a pattern grows into a map. How many times I take this path, woven with the vine, walking the red road alive. Jackie, I be the Maya. Jackie, I be the Maya. Jackie, I be the Maya. Flash of light and open sky, awareness seeing eye to eye, a quilt holding the silence of 1,000 rays streaming through time. I reach out my hand to feel the four winds that turn the wheel, the light meeting in my middle, between two worlds. The pattern move, a pattern grows into a map. How many times I take this path, how many times I peel it back, still the story stays intact. Free my heart of hearts, mystery of love, don't gush enough. Jackie, I be the Maya. Jackie, I be the Maya. Jackie, I be the Maya. Be the Maya, 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 be the
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you all for all watchers and all future watchers. Please send this to one person that you do care about, because this is important as all topics. But for this, I want to explain some things about language that you may or may not know, and it definitely deals with the Muspa or the Muskwa or the Muskogi. And usually, when you deal or talk to people, excuse me, in the Southeast, and they let you know that they are Muskogee, there are a few things that they say, which we will clarify today. But I came across this work a few years ago, the reconstructing Proto-Muskogee language and prehistory. And uh, Godwell is known for, he's a linguist, but he's known for dealing with Muskogean languages and Timucua. So those are his specialties, if I would say. But here, he's detailing some things that many may not know. And is that the languages like Chickasaw, Choctaw, Alabama, Miccosukee, and the later formed Creek all come from a mother language. And this mother language, they considered to be proto-Muskogee, or that which is before that which, of which is before what came of the Muskogean language. And what's interesting is he has different classifications, but what you'll notice is that the Hichiti classification he considers extinct. And I would like to say that of those four groups in C, Hichiti and Makasaki or Mikasuki are one and the same. One branched off slightly earlier. So to make it make sense, Hichiti, Chickasaw, and Makasaki are all mother languages, or all a part of or formed from the mother languages. And Choctaw, Alabama, Coshati, Creek, and Seminole basically branched off of those languages. They mixed with European languages, and they also have some words that come from West Africa. Now, in the theories of the classifications, those that are known as the Muskogean languages, he says that it's due to Haas, this was supposed to have been created in 1941. So this is the idea, and he says that it contained two large groups, East and the West. So here is, or her, excuse me, she, but this is a graph or a diagram basically of how they say the language broke off. Now, being that they don't speak the languages, or they aren't truly astute in the languages, they have to use terms like Proto-Muskogean. And if you understand the creation and migration stories, then you do know the actual name for what they're considering to be Proto-Muskogean, and it's Yama. So the language of the Mississippians, or that which was also said to be the language of the people of Alabama, which was mixed with Chickasaw and Choctaw, but also had some Hichiti overtones, actually come from the Tama or the Yama people, which migrated into the Southeast about 26,000 years ago. So here is another example. But in this example, what they're proposing, or Monroe, this is another classification, is that Proto-Muskogee diverged into two groups, but one was Northern Muskogean and one was Southern. So in the Northern, you have that which is colonial languages, which are Creek and Seminole, and in the Southern, and you had Southwestern Muskogean, but you also had Hichiti and Makasaki, which were said to have to come from that Southern Muskogean, and Southwestern Muskogean became Western Muskogean and Alabama Coshati. Western Muskogean became Choctaw and Chickasaw. Alabama and Coshati became Alabama, Coshati, and Appalachia. Now let's talk about this proposed or this theory. In this theory, we have that Hichiti and Makasaki diverged from the Southern Muskogean languages, but we'll speak on creation and migration very soon. But I'll show you how both of these make sense once you put the original name for the language to it. Um, and in this particular report, what's going on is they're attempting to say that all of these come from Proto-Muskogee. Not only that, but so does Wale and the Yamasi language. So another diagram. Now, had they had the understanding, let's build from top to bottom. Had they knew the stories, they would know that Proto Muskogee again is Yama, but the Yama divided amongst themselves as they began or got different trade partners. So when they got different trade partners, this is where the confusion come in at with Europeans. So for instance, we'll use this one with Yama, or that which is Proto Muskogee. As these people started to move south from Cahokia, Hichiti, which was the base language, or Itza, became known as Chickasaw, Choctaw, and Alabama, because it was the Hichiti or the Chickasaw that split into these two western groups, the Chickasaw and Choctaw. Now, also with the story, those in the north, or those in the, it's really the east, it's the middle, the mid east. But the northern Muskogee or the Creek Seminole, these were different groups that came together, but they were speaking Hichiti and Makasaki. So notice the Creeks originally spoke Hichiti, and the Miccosukee are considered Seminole. So the Creek Seminole is a younger dialect of Itza or Ishati, Hichiti, Makasaki. Now, what Broadwell did, I'll show you all some more because this is definitely detailed. It's 50 pages, only showed you 5. Let's see. So what Broadwell was doing when he was collecting his data was attempting to reconstruct these languages. And what they found is that they're able to even match 80% of words in these languages at some point. So between Choctaw and Chickasaw, their cognates are actually 85%. So this is proof that they diverged from the same mother language. But when you hear their migration story, they tell you that a group decided to stay and a group decided to break away. That group that broke away was Shata, but they were originally Chickasaw or Hichiti, Ishati, Itza, Maya, Yama. This is who they were. You have Choctaw in Alabama, 61%. Choctaw in Makasaki, 56. Choctaw in Creek, 41. Chickasaw in Alabama, 56. Chickasaw in Makasaki, 56. Chickasaw in Creek, 45. Alabama and Makasaki, 63. Alabama Creek, 51, and Miccosukee and Creek have 55% cognates in their languages. Now, also what they show you, and it's very important, and these are their dates, but they have estimated separation dates. Now, if we take these linguistic dates and we add them to agricultural dates, and then we add them to the creation and migration stories, what we find out is, though our dates and their dates may be slightly off, you may have a 300 years, and this is in the long run, right? But you can concede. So if someone say, well, I say 2600, and they say, well, I say 29, you can concede either way. So between that time, when you have the split, you have Chickasaw and Creek split about 960 BC. So this is one diagram. This is when they say these split is what created the rest of the languages. So there is a mother language which they're looking for, and we found it's the language of the Mississippians. Um, the language of the Mississippians was brought up, and here it says, okay, so now we're going to read what they're talking about with their reconstruction, and then I'll go into how the Mayans came into the Southeast, or what they call the Maya came into the Southeast. So it says, accepting the most distant dates for each stage of the reconstructed proto language, we arrive at the following figures. Proto Muskogee, 2950 BP. BP is before present. So that would give us, at the time this was written, about 960 BC, or give or take, so plus minus 380 years. Proto-Southern Muskogee is about 70 AD, give or take 290 years, so about 300 years. And Proto-Southwestern Muskogee about 350, or this is AD 350, plus minus 260. The dates above accord fairly well with the intuitive degrees of similarity between the languages. Although Alabama is somewhat more similar to Creek than Choctaw is, it is clear from these data the Alabama and Choctaw are most similar to each other. So out of these languages, and excuse me for the mess up, but Choctaw and Creek are considered the closest of the two when it comes to the cognates. So they're talking about the similarities between the Alabama and the Creek people. It says that this is due to cultural contact between the two people. As members of the Creek Confederacy, the Alabama had intense contact with the Creek language and culture and are likely to have borrowed words that increase the apparent similarity between the languages. Let's talk about it. So when Little Well asked, how many times I've peeled it back, still the story stays intact. How many times have I told you the creation story of the Muskogee crossing over and going to war with the Alabama and forcing the original Alabama people to become a part of the Muskogee or that Creek Confederacy? Now, this is a mixed group of Alabama, or what we call or what they're calling the Alabama, as the Mobilian trade language was also known as Yama. So that people that were over there, though they were not originally Yama, they were a part of the Yama traditions, or Tositani Wano Yadaha, the brothers of the pipe. Um, and they practiced green corn. Now, while they were a mixed cultural people, the Muspa that came over after the Hichiti speakers began to slaughter the men. So they began to go to war with these men. Uh-oh. What's good with you? Peace. Welcome to the panel.
Iyoko, Iyoko.
Yoko
What's going
Nibi,
on? What's going on, family?
everything. So where check me out. If you can hear me, you got me?
Yeah, I get you loud and clear.
All right. So where I'm at, where I am now, going over reconstructing the Proto Muskogee language. But I'm speaking on how the Muskogee, or the Muspa started to attack the Alabama, and the Alabama was the first group to basically become a part of their confederacy as they started to come in and try to conquer the Wali and the Yama people.
Right.
So I also explained that what they're calling Proto Muskogee Hiyoko. So what they're calling Proto Muskogee is actually Yama or Ishate, right? It's Hichiti. But their understanding of it isn't our same understanding. So now I'm explaining how the language became a part of all of these languages. So I just want to catch you up, basically.
Tenfold.
All right. So now with that going on, the speakers of the Alabama language that were left over were the women. So when these women started to come into um the Muskogee, they took on the Muskogean language, but though they were Alabama, their language was now classified as Muspa. Now, this is interesting. So we're dealing with Monroe, right? He says the four southwestern languages share a number of phonological and morphological traits, which all appear to be innovations. Listen, these include very unusual simulation rule affecting the glee auxiliary suffix. So glee in Hichiti or in Proto Muskogee denotes a clan. So I'll ask, what is your clan?
Kawatali.
So facts. So he will say Kawatali. When you hear Lee, you know that that goes back to Glee and Clove. These are how you would say it in the West. But the Hichiti have an older or have a slightly different dialect today than what the Yama had because some of the clicks are missing out of the language. This is what is also causing confusion, which I'll explain later on. But with Glee, this is an auxiliary suffix. It's denoting a family or a clan. Now, the use of the plural ha in first person, as in first person plural, and in second person plural. Now, what you will notice is that ha was taken into the Muskogee language, because anyone on the panel or in the comments can correct me if I'm wrong. Ha as a plural suffix is iba'a. It literally comes from the Wale. Now, what other words can we? Zoya, that's the plural. That's letting you know these are multiple people who come from Zo. Iba'a, this is multiple people who come from Iba, or eventually we'll show you what Iba and Eb, Iqua, what that means. So they're telling you that a few of these terms are also taken from other people and put into these languages. Now, with Broadwell, and this is where I can finally go. With Broadwell, he has another work. This work is called The Connection, or the Muskogean connection between Wali and Yamasi. Let me see if I can pull this up, and let's talk about his theories. He's not all wrong, but when you're some wrong, you're wrong. So I want to see what he has to say about the connection of Wali and Yamasi to the Muskogean languages. So, okay, here we go. So the Wali and Yamasi are two small tribes who lived in coastal South Carolina and Georgia at the time of European contact. Their linguistic affiliation is generally considered uncertain, since we have very few records of their language. Now, Gatchett and Swanson both considered their language to be Muskogean on the base of the evidence then available. Newly discovered evidence establishes conclusively that Gatchett and Swanson were correct, that the Wali and Yamasi must be recognized as Muskogean languages. Now, Gatchett argued that Yamasi was a Muskogean language. He cited as evidence some words of the language mentioned by Rene Gaunlenier de Londinier. And it's weird that I'm not gonna say it, I'll say it later. But a French Huguenot explorer who visited the region in 1564. These words are Atuqui, which is interpreter, or if you take the Y, it's Atuqui. You will find this in Makoma. They borrowed it. Uh, Totla, or Laurel, and hey, chill out, man. And and Olata Raka, right? Which means great leader. So let's
But you know what's so funny, nephew?
talk to
You
me.
know what's so funny?
Talk to me.
Um, why last night on Amazon they showed Apocalypto, right? So I'm
Mhm.
sitting down there and I'm looking at them speaking Muskogean. I'm
Yeah,
looking at them speaking Muskogean
crazy
on the movie. You know what you got 26 dialect of Muskogean, but most people don't know that though.
facts. And shout out to Uncle Ant for putting me on to something that I was able to study them as one language and then find out what that language was. So, Paul, thank you too for that. Cause when I was building, you ain't step in, you let me build, and then you was like, "Yeah, you right, nephew. Let me show you something else." So,
Right.
them people are definitely but uh, with that, let me add this. So I wanna continue here where we talking about Lota Roca, right? Um, Now it says that these words he identified with the Creek, ikti, or says Yatika, okay, Yatika and Tola, or Bay Tree, and Holada Hiku. He also provided Muskogean etymologies for some of the villages encountered by the Spanish explorer Juan Pardo, in his 1566 and 67 expedition up the Savannah River, and for some Yamasee personal names from various historical records. The words Gretchet or Gatchet, sites are suggestive, but words for interpreter, plants of medicinal importance, and political titles might easily be borrowed. So let's talk about that. The word Olada, and I can show you this as a title, and I can show you this as a town, or a towns of people, or a congression or a congress of leaders in Wale before the Wale uprising. Why didn't these scholars, why didn't these linguists ever think that these words, instead of being borrowed from Muskogee, were actually borrowed from somebody else's language? Attempting to make the Muskogee the mothers of the Southeast is what's going on. Let's crack the code. If they say that if they could name the language Proto-Muskogee, and they can say the Hichiti, the Yama, and the Wali are all Muskogee, then the Yama and the Wali have no claim to what's rightfully theirs. Because now it belongs to who? Let's make
Creek
it make
or
sense.
Muskogee.
Facts. It belongs to the Creek or the Muskogee. Now they're telling you that, hey, these words could have been borrowed, but we gonna say that they was borrowed from the Muskogee into these other languages. But you can't say anything plural or dealing with the person in Iba'a without saying ha. You can't. Even the Yamasi were known as the Yama'a. The Tamukwa were known as the Tamukwa Ha, those who are the enemies this way. I don't want to explain what it means in the long run, but you have to understand this is why they are trying to push the Muskogee term on the people. So we get down to the small print, and it says, for example, Campbell and Mithen list Yamasi as a language on which there is too little available material for classification. The Yamasi and the Wale were known to be closely related tribes and are assumed by Swanton and subsequent writers to speak the same language. Likewise, the Yamaka and Yamasi are equated by the early writers. Jones, for example, suggests that the Yamakra were a subdivision of the Yamasi. Now, this is Broadwell speaking from here. If I may be permitted a speculation, there is a possible etymology for the tribal name Wale. We know from the variant spellings of the time that it was pronounced with the initial wa, which suggests a connection with the Creek Wahala, south, or Hawala, south, or Hichiti, Wale, or downstream. So in Creek Wahala and in Hichiti, Wahali all mean downstream. The Wali and the Yamasi were located downstream from many tribes of the Creek Confederacy. Now, E or IHE represents a voiceless lateral frictive. And C, which you have the C there, but it represents chi. It's CH. This would become CH. So other symbols used in citing Muskogean languages have their standard phonetic value. Gatchet himself suggests that Tamukwa words as Ayaki, interpreter, and Tola, laurel, are borrowings from Creek. Holata, chief, is also both Tamukwa and Creek. But Gatchet interprets this as a loan word from Tamukwa. However, subsequent research has discovered cognates to the Creek term in Appalachia and Choctaw. So it seems that Holata is a third loan and two Tamukwa from Creek. Do you see how they're taking the word from being closer to their source and throwing them back to the Muskogee? When the Wali
Man,
called their chiefs Ola, and if you are blood, if you are Damu, what do you call your big homie? What Ola? This is the chief. Dagger. So Ola or
And
Ola,
why hola in Spanish mean hello.
but what it means is there's a connection to some people that were speaking Arabic and considered the chief to be God. Dagger. Some of these words were taken into the language. So we know the language, and then you take from the language and say, no, it belongs to the Creeks. But the Creeks borrowed it from the Timucua. No, Timucua had to borrow it from the Appalachee. But Appalachie is Creek. So, but how could Appalachie be Creek when Apala, Apalaha is the same word as Eufaula and Iba'a? The Appalachie Chi gives it away. The Chi part comes from the Muskogee because you would have called them Apala Chicora, who are the Chicora. So why continue to give these words to the Creek? It would again. This
nah,
is
they trying to annihilate our together.
right. This is how they're trying to recreate the proto Muskogee language.
Right,
But
because when you look at it, chi also mean you, but in the Muspa, or which became known as the Muskogean language, or in the Mayan language, it actually became Maut,
but
mean
watch
chi.
the part facts. And in Tamukwa, chi means to call from out loud. Dagger.
Right,
So we
right,
know the connection. You get what I'm saying? But they're trying to give it to a younger people.
and it doesn't belong.
It don't belong to them. It does not belong to them. So now it says, since Timucua is clearly not a Muskogean language, the presence of these words in the vocabulary of a language cannot be taken as strong evidence of genetic relationship to Muskogean. Rather, these words seems to have been widespread in the Southeast. And when we go to the Timucua dictionary, what we'll find one that is important is this word equi or ebi, and you also can find it here. Um, you can find it here, kill, or they say kill, ebi, ebi, or abi, and then you have ebi. But ebi was said to have been taken from Proto-Muskogean and taken into Timucua, but it means kill. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the Timucua called the Iba'a the Iqui or the Iqa'a. And what was very interesting about it is it doesn't mean those who are killed or those who have died, but in reality, it means, or by extension, the ancient ones. Now, or the ancestors, those who have died or have been killed. So when we reading the text and we're going through all of this good stuff, we hold on. They're not calling them those who have been killed. They're not calling them the ancestors. The way they were using it in ceremony was celebrating the Iba'a, or the people they called the Iqa'a, to be the ancient ones. Now, how did Ha become a suffix in Timucua. Remember, we talked about the ha suffix. We'll go to the ha suffix. Let me see if I can find this. Because
You say nephew. You say pa p a. You say
there,
pa
ha,
like my
H-A,
name.
ha, H-A,
Oh h a ha. Oh, okay. Oh, I thought you
right,
said pa. All right.
suffix, the plural suffix, yeah. Because, again, what they're attempting to do, peace, what's going on, Hiyoko, what they're attempting to do is shun away the other languages and be like, no, 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 all of this shit is Muskogee, when in fact, the Muskogee didn't get to the southeast until the 1500s. So you have to call the language what it is. It's Yama. A certain group of traders or people, businessmen, because some people take the term traders and flip it. So certain businessmen left the South, or they left South America. They came up through Florida. Now the niggas in Florida was like, bro, y'all gotta go up there. Y'all gotta vibe up there. Y'all good up there. The people, why don't y'all go further north? And when they got to the north, people were coming over from the east. These are quote unquote Siouan speakers, right? They were coming over from the east. People were coming up from the south to the north. These people created what you all know as Cahokia. These people created what you all know as the green corn, or recreated or reestablished, excuse me, the green corn ceremony and the, again, Tositana Yada. So when these people eventually encounter the Lenape, this is when you get the language beginning to break down. So I'll go to their diagram and explain it so it can actually begin to make sense. And I can use any one of their diagrams. So you have what they consider Proto-Muskogean. And those who fled down the west would become known as your Chickasaw and Choctaw people. But remember, these people also were coming from the west. So these are just Yama people, but they're different groups. Those who were in the east became known as Creek and Seminole, but they were originally called the Ochesi and the Makasaki. The Makasaki were said to be the leading people, or as they led the migration on land. The Ichisi were closer to the Ishati because they were true descendants of the women, and they left on business. So these two are the same groups of people. They got the same aunties, but they left at different times. Now, Alabama Kashadi, the Alabama were already Arapa'a, or Appalachia. This is a fact. They were Iba'a people. However, when the people were fleeing down from the north into the south and fleeing from the west to the east, they got caught up in that storm and they became a part of the Musqua, or which eventually became the Muskogee. The Chickasaw and Choctaw are known as the Westerners, but Chickasaw and Makasaki are also the same group. However, Chickasaw, or that group, one group decided to stay. That group of Chickasaw that decided to stay on land became known by the other group's name, of which is Hichiti. So it may sound confusing, but Hichiti, Chickasaw, and Makasaki all got the same mother, or the same grandma. These are three sisters. Hint, hint. This is why one was in the west and one was central, But those that are in the central who spoke a slightly different dialect, the Makasaki, they moved to the south. So it's displacement is what's really going on.
And one
Ochesi,
was already in the east.
they, the Hichiri they were already in the east. So when the Miccosukee come over, when Chickasaw groups began to come over, when Choctaw, who was a branch of Chickasaw, began to come over, they all had the same granny. That granny was Yama. So rightfully so, you could say Proto-Muskogee is really Ichiri, the language they considered to be extinct. And we can go because they considered Ichiri to be extinct, not understanding that Makasaki is Ichiri. Like, let's say, like, what? Excuse me, same
Nephew,
thing.
you know what's so funny? You know what's so funny? I did
Talk
a
to me.
post. This was like in 2020, if I'm not mistaken. And I say, if Shatta and Chickasaw are brothers, then who is their mama?
I never
And
seen
nobody
that
couldn't
post.
answer.
That's a great. Who is they mama?
And, and nobody couldn't answer. And I said, and I gave them the answer, and they said, "Oh snap!" I said, "Uh huh."
Hmm. I never seen that post. But that's the question that I was gonna ask. Amazing, ain't it? If Choctaw and Chickasaw are supposed to be brothers, who they mama is? And people got it backwards because the Europeans got it backwards. Because people have written languages, but they translated the word as Maya. The word properly supposed to be read right to left. They would have read it Yam. And then when they added their dialect, it would have become Yama, Yoma, and all these extra, right? Me cool. What's going on? Peace. Hiyoko, greetings. Peace to the chat. If y'all have any questions about the language or the migrations that's going into this breakdown, feel free to ask those. And I can explain the different migrations based off the language classification that they were given. Let's see. What else is beautiful about this PDF is that they basically attempted to reconstruct the Proto-Muskogee language. And what they did is they went to all five of these languages and they basically reconstructed this language. Now, what's interesting is it's 100 words, and many of them may sound different, but you can tell that they have the same root. So let me pull those up. I think it's starting like page 31 or something like that.
Nephew, I'm so
Squash
glad you
and
doing
all of that.
this. I'm so glad you're doing this
Talk to me.
because if
Y'all
because
up
if
too.
if our language supposed to been of the Muspa, right? Why is it that when we speak about people that in the Muspa is Essie, right? For people, right? When they say Escaluse, right? Eski. Eski mean people. In the Muskogee, or better yet, in the Muspa language, which is Muskogee, right? But yet, when you talk about Shata or Shata or Yamasi, that's not our word for people because
Right.
when we say Gula, right? Gula or Gola, right? Mean people. That's right there in what? That is in Yuba'a. And
Fact.
also when you say Yati, right? For people in Hititi. You see? So why those words are not found in the Muskogean language?
I'm gonna tell you what it is. We got the answer. If I may, if I may, it's definitely because Muskogee is a colonial language. So they missing the ancient. They missing what's ancient in the language.
Right. It's a colonial language of trade.
Colonial language, because Ogla, right, or Gula, but Ogla, Okla, Okla, Okli. You hear the clicks in what I'm saying. You don't hear that in Muskogee. They have clicks that are hidden now because people don't breathe properly.
Right. And it's also the shaping of the T in the tongue. That's why you say Kawakani, right?
And this is where when I crack the code with the Ikwa and the Ikwa, where somebody's like, oh, no, it says Igua, I'm like, no, that's a click, it's Kwa. But if you say the term properly, it becomes Ikwa. It's a hard click. It's a click from the throat, not from the roof of the mouth. So
Hmm.
they don't, well, they have to understand that how you say things in these languages matter, right? They matter. um like, for instance, let's see what they're talking about here. Similar initial, okay, well, then, okay, reconstruct, okay, we can't reconcile, okay, well. All right, so let's see. So it says the Creek Seminole and Hichiri Makasaki or Mikasuki forms are the most easily comparable, since Hichiri and Mikasuki forms appear to include a bound form of the noun api, body, stalk, or cob. We know they're talking about maize. The occurrence of as rather than ak can then be explained by a rule common to many Muskogean languages, which turns into or and syllable position. Excuse me. So if it has what is it? It's like pointing down. Is a symbol like an arrow, basically pointing down on the sound that would extend the sound or add that sound. So it's like you write sugar, you spell sugar with an S, you don't write the H. But if you spoke Latin, you would put a symbol over the H, excuse me, over the S, symbolizing that this is sh. And you would do the same with ch, t, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, okay, talking about all that. Then it says Western Muskogee forms is cognate with the Creek and Hichiri Makasaki forms. Then clearly the set is reconstructible at the level of Proto-Muskogee. So they're basically saying that they can reconstruct these things. Now it says, how can we reconcile the presence of the word for corn with the generally accepted archaeological position that corn was not present in the Southeast until considerably later than AD 700? Now, let's correct this. But let's continue. I'll continue. I'll let them say what they say, and then we'll do more work on it. So we have Riley, Edging, and Rosen. So they survey the evidence and find some evidence that corn was here as early as 200 BC. Interesting. That's in my book. Now, so that gives us about that gives us about huh. Let's talk about that real quick. Let's talk about that. Because when maize got here is when the word for maize in their language would have had to have been used. So they explain that this could have been around 900 BC, give or take 380, right? Give or take 380. Now, in the Green Fire, I explained that when the Yama made it to the southeast, they brought maize and they brought their trade language. And this was about around, that was almost around that time. The date that they said is, I think they have 2960. Let me make sure I'm not tripping. It's 2960. And then the date that I have in the book is about 2650. So we not too far off in what we say about maize actually making its way to the Americas. But two ways to find it would be through botany. What they would do is they test the pollen at the mounds. So if you go to different mound sites or you study a different archaeological work, what they'll do is test the pollen, and they'll be able to tell you what type of crop was at these mounds. So you follow the archaeology work, you follow the linguistic work, and then you able to actually put together your own work and put together your dates to say, okay, damn, this is a possibility when this must have happened. So tobacco, all of that good stuff. The Creek word tobacco, hichi, word which is found also in Hichiti. Interesting. It says that it's likely that he borrowed the word from Creek. How could they have borrowed the word from Creek when Hichiti predates Creek? Creek is an English word. Fuck it. Creek is an English word. So how could that
But nephew,
predate? That's talk to me,
nephew.
uncle. Talk to me.
But remember, I had gave you one of the other derivative of the name Yamazi. God damn it!
You
I
ain't
just
go.
let it go.
No,
God damn it!
no,
God,
you didn't.
God
You
damn
did it. You did it. But I would
it!
like you to. I know we going to the crop. Go ahead, huh? Talk about the crop and the name and how it attaches to the crop.
Yeah, yeah, and if you heard the way how I said it, it almost sound like our family who are the Tarzan, right? So when you say that, it almost sound like old boy that's from South Africa, from Zulu, right? When you say Shaka, right? So when I say Yamazi, right? The Yamazi, 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 or the Transvazi, right? So dealing with that and dealing with which became known as corn, which is not really corn, it was actually maize or maize because you got the MA and then you got the Z's, right? But what most people don't know is that I with the underglyph also made that click sound too. So that's why we also became known as like the scary movie that was called The Children of the Corn or The Children of the Maize. And if you ever watch the movie, once again, Apocalypto, old boy was running through what? He ran through the maze, and then after that, he wound up falling in the pit where they had all the dead bodies at. But they was going the maze. When he was running through the maze, he lost the rest of the people that was behind him when they was shooting the arrows trying to kill him. Y'all remember that?
Facts.
Yeah,
Facts. That's when that's when they were starting the ritual. They put them boys in that field, had them boys throwing them things at them. And then the big dog, I think.
right.
Facts. 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 Uh,
Apocalypto?
now go ahead, cuz.
So you talking about Apocalypto?
Facts. Facts.
Yeah, I said, I told a lip a while ago. I said, when you see all that the indigo they using too,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely.
wiping their bodies down in the indigo so that they could see them.
And where they got it from? That's
Right
interesting.
there, you
That's an
buy.
interesting question. Where did they that?
Yeah,
Where did facts?
that indigo had to migrate to the Yucca.
Facts. It was sent over there. Hold on. Let me I want to do matter of fact, let me do this before I go grab that.
Or
When we
or
talking
or
about
or
go
if
ahead.
the
Go ahead.
indigo wasn't just sent over there, when they captured them, when they captured the women and children, they brought their works with them.
Yeah, they definitely came to
Right.
do business too, so I know they definitely grabbed some before they took off. Hold on. Once let me grab this real quick. I want to go over what it say on the screen. About that he cheated. Hold on 2 seconds. Hold on. Let me grab something out of the room.
I must say, Mel Gibson, he did his research when he did that movie. I'm still waiting for part two to come out.
It's supposed to be a part two.
Yeah, they was talking about it in the makings,
Yeah,
because they was
he definitely did his
they,
research. That's why it got so much controversy.
oh yeah. They were pissed off with him when he did that.
Yeah.
All right, I'm back. So let's talk about this. So they're talking about he cheated, and we're gonna make this make sense. So let's see. Ichi. So ichita means to see. This same term can be found in Chickasaw, and Ochesi, and Ichisi. All of these means to see, as these people went to see the sun, right? This is what it's said to be. Now, tobacco is also said to be called the seer, as it induces visions. Now, when you deal with the Iba'a, we are taught that tobacco comes from the penis, it's semen, right? That it was seeded from a man into the ground, and then it grew out the ground as a child of the sun. Kind of interesting. But all of these stories, all of these crops have their time here. And if we can trace their time here, then we can begin to figure out at what time was people speaking these languages or speaking certain languages. The issue is using modern names for ancient languages. So let's see. I'll show this, and then I'll go into the
And look,
reconstruction.
nephew,
Talk to me.
not only tobacco, but also the favorite hot sauce, Tabasco, Tabasco, tobacco, Tabasco, tobacco, Tabasco.
All those are indigenous words, like,
Right.
but so what this is talking about, so this is another breakup of the languages. Now, when they're talking about other events, this is most important because when it says corn, squash, when it's talking about these different crops, tobacco, the introduction of tobacco, the introduction of beans, um, they're speaking on specific beans, specific squash, and certain types of C4 plants, right? Which may not be maize or yamases at that time. Now, the dates that they're given, along with the so-called classification with the crop, will explain that the Yama were here about 1000 AD, and at that time, specific people they were dealing with had maize. So then you have other groups coming in that brought tobacco. So what they started doing is introducing these words to these other languages, because people didn't have that idea. Now, here is the list of the 100 words that they have brought back together in order to formulate the so-called Proto-Muskogean languages. I'm not going to
Hold on,
read.
nephew.
Go ahead, talk to me.
Hold on. Before you go into that, you just triggered something in my head just now. Because when people in them say that the Yamazi is extinct, how we are extinct and y'all still doing our traditions and rituals? For all those who is in Oklahoma, for all those that try to say, oh, the Yamasi extinct, how we extinct and y'all doing our ceremonies? That means if the pale man was to know that that was a Yamasi ritual and y'all doing it, they would have classified all those that was doing the ritual what? Yamasi.
Yamasi, because at that point, Yamasi was not about bloodline. It basically was a modern day religion.
Go. Oh, how they say a confederation.
Confederation. They were unified spiritually. That's what really made them different from other people. The 1700 Yamasi Federation was put together for war. Saying enemy, we going to war. But those original Yama people who taught the ceremonies to those people coming into the land were more political. They were more spiritual. They were more associated with the spiritual realm than those people coming into the east. So they had to give the people a ceremony to calm them down. Uh, but that university is older than what a lot of focus on 1700s. Understanding that there are a group of people that came from the South and because of what's going on in the South. Let's see. Hold on. I have a question.
And guess
It
what,
says,
nephew?
so Gullah
And guess what,
means
nephew?
people. That means hold on. Hold
Guess
on.
what,
I got
nephew?
a question I gotta answer.
All right.
So it says if Gullah means people, that means Gullah Geechee means people of the Geechee. No. When you hear a word, take that word as is, because you might hear it 50 times and it got 50 different meanings. So the Tagora or the Pine people and those Hogi people are one same, but it doesn't mean the Geechee. I'll tell you what that is. It, it's every word, but what people think it is. I don't want to explain it anymore. Um, I don't. It don't get into the sound alike, Reese. Don't get into the sound alike, bro. If I have to explain it, I'm gonna end up explaining something. Well, fuck it. I'll explain it. All right. I guess I'll explain it. Geechee and Gullah are a part of the same confederation, but they are two different branches of the confederation. So when you hear Gola, what he is explaining is that Gola or Okla, Ogla, uh, are prefixes, excuse me, are suffixes and sometimes prefixes, depending on how you use it, in their respective languages. But it means people. What Paul was tying it back into is into Yalu, which means swamp, and it also can mean people. So we were explaining that what Esti people in Muskogee proper is not the same as Yati or Gula, Oakley, Okla, or Yalu, or all those different words that became or that are older than that Muskogee term. So that's what was being explained. Gullah Geechee does not mean people of the Geechee. Um, Hogalugi, right? Ogeechee itself mean people of the Ogeechee, bro. Literally. If you was to say it in Hichiri, you would say Okiichi. Literally, Okiichi. So it's somebody who live on this river, because Oki, or somebody that lives by this water, because Oki would give you the term water, right? Similar to Okeechobee. Oki, water, Chobe, big. And for those who don't know, Chobe and B are two different things. If you say B Miku, that's the highest chief. That's how you properly would translate it. The high chief, the highest chief. If you say Chobi Miku, you're saying big chief, but not big as in rank, big as in size. So that's what he was explaining that that's what he basically was explaining with that word. But don't do the look, don't do the sound alike, bro. That's gonna confuse you more. So in these words, in these go
Well,
ahead. I'll get
nephew,
it.
if he watched WWE, he would have known that dealing with the Samoan family, which is our water family, right? The island family, because dealing with Roman Reigns, and then you have The Rock. Roman Reigns is the big chief, but The Rock is the high chief.
Facts. Right, right,
If you
right.
ever watch WWE, they let you know Roman Reigns is the head of the table, right? Because he's the big chief. But then you have the high chief. The high chief is over the big chief.
And
That's what the correlation between B and Kubi. That's the relation between it. You got the big chief as the size, and then you have the B, which is the high chief. So the high
but
chief is
now go
go
ahead,
ahead,
go
nephew.
ahead. Now go ahead,
Go ahead, go ahead. I get the
because
talking stick to you, go
all right,
ahead.
when it comes to rank, when it comes to ranking, if I'm not the B Miku, I would be the Tuscanugi. I would be the war chief. You would have to put B. It's like or the Alachi, and you have the B Alachi. That's the big. That's the highest chief or the highest medicine man amongst the medicine men. So that's the same with B and Miku or B and Chobi. Chobi is in relation to size. If it was in relation to ranking, then the name of the river would have been complete, or excuse me, the name of the lake, which they considered to be an ocean, would be completely different. That's what blew my mind. And I finally understood, like, wait, you have the B Miku and you have the Miku, like you have the Tunakui or the Tuscanugi, and then you have the what is it? How they said in Muskogee, the Chaliqui, their war chief is like
Yeah, that's
Chaliqui or
illegal.
some.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's illegal. Yeah.
it all made sense. I'm like, okay, so I can see the rankings within how they size things. You get what I'm saying? Big, large, tall, shit like that. Some of them are rankings and some of them are actual sizes. Let's see.
Boy, that's a
So a
motherfucking
governor,
beautiful view, boy. Do your shit,
basically,
nephew.
right? Say what?
I say, man,
What
this
you
a
said, boss?
motherfucking beautiful view. I say, this a motherfucking beautiful view. I say, do your shit, nephew.
For sure. But yeah, Reese,
Dang.
that's basically that, right? So you will have a chief depending on time period, but everybody or every chief is an ambassador for his family. So he's still a Miku, a Tunakui, a Katike, a Lada, whatever you want to call them. However, there's an order, and it started. But you can consider the chief a president, but we are going to remember that is in control of all of that. So the council names, or better yet, what we call those who give these people these positions, we would consider a president or a governor today, right? What were their roles? What were the roles of someone who may be seen as a little chief, according to European terms? Um, what was his daily life like? What was he set out to do, or she? Because before the Yama got to the southeast, and this anybody can come talk to me about it. But before the Yama got to the southeast, the true delegates were the women. Many men were forced In fact, many men were forced to begin taking positions as lead men when it comes to politics. Do 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 do. So many words, right? I know y'all looking at the screen. So many words um that you will find here. Are y'all boys open? Y'all can open y'all mic or anything if y'all want to build about it. What me and Pop building.
I like to say this, nephew. I like to say this. Over here is no elbows and no elbows. We are traditionals. You bitch, you. Nah. If we supposed to be
Y'all
those
gonna
things that they
up
claim
one
us to be,
hard
how
work.
we know these things?
It could just
How
go
we
straight.
know these things? Go ahead, nephew.
Oh no, I was saying can go straight to him.
Right.
Let's see what we
You
have.
don't hear nobody on social media, on YouTube, on live stream speaking about traditional information like this. You don't have that. Even those who have Scottish and Irish family members and all that there who was assimilated within the family, they don't even talk about this. You don't hear about the five civilized tribes of Oklahoma speaking about this. You don't hear the
Wait,
Lenape
wait.
Nation of Oklahoma,
Of Oklahoma who?
Oklahoma.
Now what does Oklahoma mean again? You see? So and we're looking at Homer right here. Red.
Oh damn, I
Red.
didn't even see that nephew because
Yeah,
That's
I'm on my
why I
phone. I'm
said
just
it.
Oklahoma is called. They named it because it's a red clay state.
Facts. Homer. Muspa. That's a part of the so we can see the links between the languages. And also, Paul, you was talking about Esty, but here we're talking about person or human in these five languages. Here in Makasaki, they have Yati, which also deals with person or human. Yeah, also Esty is here and Creek. So they showing all the they showing 100 different tie-ins.
right,
Smoke,
nephew.
star,
You're absolutely
sandstone.
right.
This 100. This is it's over 100 words. So it can't be denied. It can't be denied that these. So it can't be denied. So it can't be denied that these languages have the same mother language, but the issue is what that mother language is. The mother language they're calling Proto Muskogee because if they called it what it was, then they would have to give it to the Yama. But they're taken away from the Yama, being that the Muskogee came much later. They're taken away from the Wali when it comes to terms or suffixes like ha and loan words like holata roka. All of these terms were adopted into Tamukwa and then adopted into Muskogee as opposed as the other way around. Um, what's his name? After Bradwell did his work, there was a contemporary, William Sturtevant, and he's a Frenchman too. But what he explained is that Bradwell was 100% wrong. He ended up writing a response to the connection of Wale and Yamasi with Muskogee, but he termed it the misconnection of Wale and Yamasi with Muskogee. Now I read this plenty of times, so I'll just basically paraphrase. And what he's explaining is that all the words that Broadwell used to establish that Wale was and Yamasi were Muskogee were wrong. So he tried to say, well, I didn't get these words from Creek. I got them from another language. He's wrong. He actually got it from Creek and tried to push it on the Wali and Yamasi. Then there is no evidence that the Yama people were speaking the Wali language. The Yamasi that did speak the Wale language were what? Wale. They were just being called Yamasi. This is another misconception with Europeans. They attempt to make these people closer than what they were pre-contact than they were in historical records, right? Um, one word that will be mentioned, one word that is mentioned here is also Holada. And what he explains is that with Tomochichi, because they tried to say, well, Tomochichi lived in Yamasi territory, so he must have spoken Yamasi. But what happens if what they were calling Yamasi is the same thing they want to call Creek because they don't want to call Yamasi Hichiri and they don't want to call Hichiri Yama. So it's all a game, and NAGPRA or the National Association or those who protect the graves, right? They're a part of the bullshit. This is why the bones are continuously being sent west because they're classifying things that are 20,000 years older than the Muskogee as proto Muskogee. So that's my class for the day. If any one of y'all want to open the panel, y'all can open the panel and teach on the subject or anything different.
Well, hell, they should be learning right now. You know, you already gave it to them in the blue fire and the green fire. You know what I'm saying? What else is it that we have to convey to let them know about how the situation went down in the southeast? It's like what more that we have to tell them? Because you know the anthropologists back up what you put in the book, the archaeologists back up what you said, what you put in the book, and the historians in them, the ones that actually went back to correct history, like Denise Boise, when she wrote the book, The Yamasi from South Carolina to Florida. You know what I'm saying? That's those books I call the Holy Trinity in that case, right? Go get those books and you will see how it all lined up. And then if you want the fourth book, go and read the book that's by the Lenape, the Walla Uma, that actually, tell the other side about how they came down and fought against us and how we whipped that ass. You know what I'm saying? You know, and we already knew this before we even started reading their books because dealing with the Wachia of the Washita, she already said that we were fighting against the Asian Mongolians for over 2,000 years. But she just didn't know the name of the people was Lenape. But she knew that there was Eurasians. She knew that. But she didn't
Uh,
know their name.
West.
You know what I'm saying? And especially like when nephew was reading, he said, "Yeah, they stopped at Yellow River." And I said, "Yeah, Yellow River is right there by Yellowstone."
And it
And he
all made
said, he said, "Oh," he said, "Wow, all that shit made sense." Like, yeah, we know the story.
it all made sense because it's like, how in the hell y'all get the Yellowstone and y'all talking about, oh, we finna become friends with them so we can go to war against the people in the East. The whole time the Muskogee and Yellowstone having the same meeting. We need to invade the East. Now y'all was together when that shit happened. Let me see the flame meet.
Right,
Y'all
right.
had to be together when that happened.
And then when they couldn't beat us, they had to go ahead on and marry some of the women, our women.
That
So
gotta be
yeah,
European practice.
Right.
There got to be a European practice. Let's see what we have in here. Hello, beautiful mothers. Who else in here? Crane, what's good, cuz?
Hello.
Greetings, 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 sis.
Yeah, Tita, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, sis. How you doing?
Great, great, great. Great bill, y'all. This was awesome.
Oh yeah, it's always a wonderful bill. And look, the bill been so extravagant from last year. You still got people that's
Ooh.
discombobulated. They still discombobulated, and they try to say they had no black Indians over here. Well, you call them black, you can call them swarthy, you can call them tawny. The Spanish and the French and them had records of it. They know who was here. They knew who they drew on the maps, and they keep on forgetting that the 1500s, they called the ocean, they didn't call it Atlantic, they called it the Ethiopian. So why they call it the Ethiopian Ocean if the people didn't look like Ethiopians over here? You know what I'm saying? That's their account. They wrote it and they drew it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
So I don't know why people want to be in denial that the mound builders of the southeast and them will be considered as Negroes. You know what I'm saying? Or as they say, La Negro. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the problem? What's the problem?
there
But
is
see,
no problem, actually.
if I tell them the story about how we had, I ain't gonna say the story. I'm gonna leave the story alone because we those Africans in them know. Go talk to them. Go talk to them Africans that's over there. They know about the trade that happened. They know about the trade, about how we came over there on big ass canoes that was over 100 yards and had more than 60 men on the canoes. Come on now. But y'all not talking to y'all tribal elders. This tribal information here, this traditional shit, you ain't gonna find that in no fucking book. See, we got people that try to deny the admixtures. You had people that came from West Africa and they was on the plantation and everything. How you think some Indian was able to talk to the Africans and some African was able to talk to the Indians? How certain
Um,
medicines from Africa wind up in the medicine bundle over here in North America in the Southeast? Oh, y'all don't want to talk about that shit. Y'all don't want to talk about that shit. But y'all say there was no interactions. Y'all talking about, oh, no canoes or no ships. So people are smart enough to build big ass structures out of shells and stones and concrete that we actually made, right? But we can't make no sea vessels. We can't make no sea canoes. See, y'all don't understand. We had sea canoes and we had creek canoes because the creek canoes was for home. But when we went abroad, we had big old ocean canoes, which will be somewhat like our oceanic family dealing with the Samoa, right? Or dealing with the Hawaiians, right? But y'all say that we couldn't do it. How I dare you? Matter of fact, how is it that the oceanic weapons look just like the weapons of the Southeast? How you get weapons that's similar? But y'all said we never had no interaction. How is it that our tattoos are basically similar?
Facts.
But y'all say we never had interactions. Come on,
Cause
man, stop it. I was the first one to put out that Easter Island not only had heads, but there was a whole body in there. And next thing you know, National Geographic came out and said, "Oh, we found that they had bodies. It was a big old body, it just was in the head, but it was bodies." Then said that.
People been told y'all that.
Hey,
See,
someone listen.
Well, at this point, Paul, if you know, you know.
Right.
And,
And if you don't, you don't.
and if you don't, you just don't. And, and then it depends on who we talking about. Who are they? Like, you know what I'm saying? Who are we talking about? Because if we talking about, and I'm just gonna say it, them white folk, we can't rely on their information.
hmm,
Definitely not
Right.
their information.
Right.
Oh,
You're
in this case,
absolutely right, sis.
we know who did the research behind this information. You know, not just
1,000 year old.
something that's misinformation that's being put out there. Uh, and if it was, it's damn sure being corrected now.
It has always been corrected. It's just time that we just came to the forefront.
Right, right. I can go with that. You are absolutely right. Because I guess it all boils down to whoever want to receive it. The information. Not in a. We just gonna keep on keeping on. You know. At least we know we know.
Because this how you know we know too. Here, they talk about these 7 generations. Well, if you say you 7 generations, that make you young. Because 7 generations, that's young. We older than 7 generations.
Hmm. Yeah.
And they came before Columbus. Um, what I found interesting is not that they mentioned that they mentioned the Yamasi, but if you read the actual article that was done, you can see the bullshit. Like you can see the game. It's like somebody from France, like, oh yeah, the Yamasi alive. Like it's niggas in Florida, like niggas. Like this way real basically niggas in Florida that's descended from them people. And they all threw that bitch. The next year, the United States say, nah, the Yamasi extinct. So from 1900 to 1901, you go from, oh yeah, they still alive and active to they extinct. This shit is crazy. That's in reference to this comment right here. So let's see. We got any more questions? I'm in the class. Do we have any more questions? Any questions?
Mhm.
I'll give it a couple minutes. Let's see what we got. Facts. I can how can this pale face translate over 22 dialects? So we don't have no questions. So with that being said, I'm going to end class. Please share this with one person you know needed. Especially being that history of the land. From all of our perspective. Um, even though our math might be slightly different, we aren't too far away. So if you are studying the Muskogee language, attempt to learn the mother language or even find out what that mother language is. Um, and then reconnect, right? If that's your people. Other than that, much love. I'll see y'all next week, same time, 11:10.
Gratitude, nephew. Gratitude.